Well, it's finally here. Labo VR, Zelda, and Mario, all in one. And, well, I've played it for about 40 minutes now, splitting time between both, less in Zelda, more in Mario. And I figured we're going to go over it, because there are probably some people now who are resting their purchase of Labo VR solely on Zelda or Mario being the interesting part. And if that is the case, to be completely honest with you, I would skip Labo VR. I'll just save you the time. It's not something to buy if your main focus is going to be Breath of the Wild or Mario Odyssey. And I'll kind of talk to you a bit about why as we go through here. So, let's start with, I guess, Breath of the Wild. Now, when we first heard that Breath of the Wild was going to be completely in VR, trust me, I was a bit surprised, just like I'm sure you were. The idea of being able to explore pretty much the big open world of Breath of the Wild was a pretty cool sounding thing if it was all in VR. That would have been neat, right? Run around VR. Technically, that is the case. But there are a lot of issues, like so much so that I don't think most people are going to get the enjoyment out of it that I think they have like in their mind kind of cooked up. So when you first actually put the VR headset on, and by put on is actually hold up, which you can make a strap, but Breath of the Wild reminded me why Nintendo did not include a strap with this thing. I think people are going to get motion sick from this. So when I started up Breath of the Wild and you actually put the headset in front of your face, it does become kind of a 3D looking experience, which is kind of cool until you start really moving around. Now, you're of course going to see some shimmering on different objects like Link all around him and everything, and other NPCs and stuff you run into, or just items in general. But as you move around the world and you see like trees and you see the grass and stuff, you start to realize that it is in a like substantially low resolution for what you need for VR. So much so to the point where it's actually hard to make things out. I mean, like in general, like Link's face looks like 2 dots and like nothing. So unfortunately for people who want to get this so that they can almost sightsee, it doesn't even really work well for that. It's just in general a screen door effect paired with a very troubled, very low resolution with no anti-aliasing at all. So what I'm trying to describe to you, because this is kind of hard since I really can't show you what you see when you look through here, I can show you footage like this, and all this are basically the 2 eye pieces, and then they divide them up obviously into 2 squares, and they kind of twist them a little bit and mold them so it will work with the 3D effect. But I can't actually show you what it really looks like, technically, when you hold it up. It doesn't look good. It is an issue, and I don't think this is a great selling factor for it, but if you already have Labo VR, it is a free update, so that's pretty cool, right? They just added an update, and you can actually try it out. But if you are someone who is really thinking about it, and you're saying, okay, maybe Zelda, maybe Mario will put it over the top for me, I can tell you right now, Zelda won't put it over the top for you. To get like head tracking, from what I saw, you take like turn motion controls on. It's not really designed well around that. So it's not, I think, an experience that they set up with like originally had it in mind. Like I don't think Breath of the Wild was set up and they were like, oh cool VR. Or even when they started doing Labo, I feel like Breath of the Wild was just kind of thrown in there just to help with sales, because they can then put Zelda, the logo, like attached to Labo VR. It's interesting they decided to attach it to something like this, although I guess they did Mario Kart technically with the variety kit. So no, I wouldn't buy it for Zelda, but if you are interested in Mario Odyssey, that might be a different story, mostly because it does work better with VR. However, keep in mind, you could technically play the different minigames without the VR headset, the VR gear, nothing. You don't need any of it. You can actually play it yourself, only in handheld mode though, because it does actually use head tracking and kind of the motion, the gyro controls, and that was actually kind of neat. The way this works, and what's really funny is I realized I was in a good chair for it, because you want a chair where you can spin all the way around, although it tells you to be sitting, but you might actually be better off standing in a space so you're not going to run into anything, because you actually have to twist all the way around. Like you are pretty much planted in one spot, and you can look completely around you. Like, you can just start looking around, and you can lose sight of Mario. They have a little cursor. It tells you where he is and everything. I took some screenshots. I can't record footage because it's handheld only. I'm sure Nate will put some up so you can check him out to see if he has it up. And it was actually kind of neat. Now, Mario is a different story when it comes to things like motion sickness, for example, because Mario was running at a better frame rate. So it was more manageable and more interesting because you can look around. Now, you still need to hold it up like this to your head unless you build a strap. So you will get tired if you have not already kind of made your own little, setup to hold it to your face. You're going to get tired just holding it like this, and you're moving around a lot as well. That is kind of a problem, I would say. And Breath of the Wild, you shouldn't be using a strap because you might get motion sick. Actually, you probably will. Your eyes might even start to burn, to be honest. I started to feel a little bit of watering in my eyes when I was playing Breath of the Wild, but I was a bit better off with Mario Odyssey, and that was actually kind of fun. It was. They basically had little mini games. You ran around, you were trying to help the musicians and everything get their instruments, and it was kind of a fun little experience. I don't think it's going to sell VR by itself because you can play them without it, just in handheld mode. You just kind of hold it up and look around and everything, and you control Mario. There was one really cool part where right in front of me they had the camera just jump. So you don't actually move around yourself, the camera, you just look around. You don't actually move around the world. It will teleport you places. And at one point I was controlling Mario and it teleported me to a little spot, and I just happened to be looking in the right place. The pipe kind of comes out of the ground, and Mario jumped out of it towards me. Completely reminded me of the first time I saw Mario 64, if you remember that, if you're old enough to remember that, or maybe you've played it recently. But that was one of the big aha moments of 3D back in the day, is right in the beginning, the pipe came out of the floor, and then Mario jumped out towards you, and it was a really cool thing. That's what that reminded me of. Actually had a pretty cool effect because he was close enough to me to where I could make him out completely, and the aliasing is not as bad as Breath of the Wild, so it actually popped pretty well when he jumped out of the pipe. That was pretty cool. But, of course, the experience itself is designed around VR to a degree, but I also don't think Mario Odyssey is enough to sell you on VR, only because you can play it completely without it. So unfortunately, neither of these experiences I think are good enough to sell you on VR, but if you've already decided on VR because of the building you like to do with Labo, or maybe you wanted to try it out with the mini games, you're like, $40, I'll try it and see what happens, and these are just extra things to you, yeah, at that point, download them, try them out, and see what you think. But I don't know if I would hinge my entire Labo VR purchase on these two games, okay? The games by themselves, without VR, phenomenal games. Throw VR into the mix, and you got to start holding this up and run around and stuff. I just don't think it mixes or works very well. I don't think it's a great selling point for Labo VR. I really don't. I think some of the mini games possibly in the Labo VR kit, the base starter one, are better experiences than either of these two. But let me know if you've tried it out. Let me know what you think down below, because after playing it for, like I said, about 40 minutes, I'm really not interested in playing it anymore. I would rather just play something like Breath of the Wild, just straight up without VR, even Mario Odyssey. Let me know what you guys think. I'm very curious. Make sure you like the video if you liked it, dislike it if not, and I'll see you in the next video.